Just get straight to the point. As you guys could see from my thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the Makeup Forever Reboot Foundation. I've been using this foundation for well over a month now, and I just wanted to talk to you guys about it, share with you guys the great pros of it and the very little cons of it, and just, you know, do stuff during the quarantine, you know? Okay, so I'm in the shades R208 and Y328. I always buy two colors and mix them together. I just find that that's always the best way to get your perfect color. So that's just what I'm going to do now. And this is Y328, if you guys want to see a little how much, I mean, if you guys want to see a swatch, kind of. Well, technically if it's that gloppy, it's not a swatch, but... And then this is R208, is that paler color. I'm just gonna mix those puppies together. And this is like the shade that I'm gonna get. So when this first came out, I saw this a lot on, you know, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. And I saw that everybody said to use a brush because it'll, you know, apply better and stuff like that, which is usually the case with like light to medium coverage foundations, which this is a light to medium coverage foundation. Usually you want to apply it with a brush because you're already not getting that much coverage anyways, and just like using a beauty blender or any just sponge will sheer it out even more. But look, let me tell you guys, okay, when I started wearing makeup was when Beauty Blender first came out, and it was just like a miracle of product and everyone was going crazy about it, and that's when I tried it and I just fell in love and I have never looked back. I've always tried to use brushes, but I just don't. I'm using a second coating right now, and it's not because the product needs to be built up, it's just because I'm using a sponge, so I'm losing a lot of product and coverage. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more. So obviously, since I'm adding a second layer, you're already gonna deduce that this is a buildable product, and it's not gonna look heavy or cakey or anything like that. The layer I have on right now feels so light, and it looks really light. So I'm just gonna add just like a little bit more, just because I have a lot of uneven skin tone, and I have a lot of like sunspots and stuff like that. So yeah, I just kind of touched up a little bit. Anyways, so I do recommend you use a brush if you are good with brushes, but I'm not. I just, for the life of me, I just can't. I cannot find the finesse to use a brush. I always just end up like, I feel like I'm just not gentle enough. I don't have like the flick of the wrist, and I just feel like I drag it all over my face. There's so many streaks and it just never works out, and I end up like chafing my skin by like, just, you know, I try to be light as possible, but I just feel like I'm just chafing my skin, so just sanding it down basically. So I don't use a brush. I've tried, but it just does not work out for me. So when I did get this foundation at first, I did try using it with a brush, but it's not the foundation, it's me. So I'm just basically, long story short, if you are good with a brush, I recommend using it because it looked really great on all those YouTubers who are doing it with a brush. But if you're not good with the brush though, and you do prefer sponges like me, then you can totally use a sponge, because there are a lot of foundations that are really beautiful and they're light to medium coverage, and because it's always the light to medium ones that you really want to use a brush for, and I couldn't use them because they would look funny with a sponge. Like the sponge just would not do the foundation justice. So I like that this one you can use a sponge and it still looks really gorgeous on the skin. You just have to use more product than you would with a brush, but it still looks really nice. Okay, so this is what it looks like after I have blended everything in nicely and just pounced my heart away. And I feel like it looks really beautiful. It looks very skin-like and luminous, and I freaking love it. We'll talk about it more later, but this is just, you know, take a gander. This is freshly applied, and it just, you guys saw how it blended so well. It just sunk in, my skin ate it up so nicely. It just blended super well, super easily. I didn't have to work hard or anything. I didn't have to have any talent. It just, you know, push it into the skin, boom, easy. So nice. It just looks very skin-like, very natural, very radiant, very healthy, very youthful. I love it. It's light to medium coverage. And right here underneath my eyes, I usually don't put a lot of product because I use concealer. So there's no point in having two layers of concealer and a layer of foundation. It's just unnecessary. It's going to be covered underneath a boatload of concealer anyways. So I just skip the foundation. So just to save my skin because it's just unnecessary. So if you guys think this area looks funny, that's just because I didn't put any foundation there. So, but everywhere else I did, and yeah. So I'm going to finish the rest of my face and we'll come back and we can talk about the product. Alrighty, as you guys can see, I'm done with my makeup. So let's talk about this bad boy. And hold on a second. I feel like my nose is running. Yes, it is running. It is. I feel like that's like the worst thing, like when your nose starts running right after you're finished with your makeup. Like you could have done it before, you know, like when there was no foundation on, I could just wipe it off with the tissue, but no, you just have to pick now and there's a bunch of foundation on there. Anyways, I digress. So this foundation is super awesome. So as you can see, the finished look is very luminous. It's very radiant. It's very skin-like. It's very youthful. It's very healthy, juicy, natural, and I love it. This is great for everything. Like that's the thing I like about this, because some foundations, you know, when you want that full glam, like when you're thinking about like Jeffree Star, Mac Daddy, who else, like Patrick Star, like people who have like super heavy, beautiful, gorgeous, like glam, like that Instagram, like sultry, give it to me, like it's very full coverage. And some foundations you just can't use it for those looks because it's just not enough glam power in it. I feel like this is great because it's the full spectrum. You can use it for super glam looks or super toned down looks, so I love that. And then on top of that, this foundation has passed every test. Okay, it's long wearing, like I have normal skin, but my skin decides to change its mind like every other day. So sometimes I'll wake up and it'll be normal. Sometimes it's dry, sometimes it's oily, sometimes it's combo. So I have all skin types basically. So, and I've used this for over a month now. So this isn't just like a first impressions or something. This is something I truly believe works. And I know it works. I love it. So I've used it every day when my skin felt like whatever it wanted to feel like. And it's withstood all of that. It doesn't accentuate any texture. You can't hide texture, but you don't want it to accentuate either, you know what I mean? And I've been dealing with a milia population right here on my chin. They're not going anywhere anytime soon apparently. I'm trying to evict them, but they're just like no bits. So I like that it's not giving them, you know, screen time. I like that it's kind of just hiding them where they should be hidden. And you know, I've worn this on super long ass days. I've napped in it and then not touched up. It lasts through sweat because, you know, I kind of sweat a lot when I nap or sleep, period, you know, so that's a little embarrassing. It's not girly, but I do sweat in my sleep, so it's lasted through my naps, especially when I'm just like rolling, or, you know, I'm a face sleeper. I don't sleep like cute. I sleep like smushed in. It's lasted through that. It doesn't transfer. I'm constantly wearing hoodies that are like kind of really close to my face, and it's never transferred either, so I like that. And on top of that, I've used it with different primers, different concealers, different setting powders, you know, the whole 9 yards. I've changed all those factors, and with all of that said, I have to say that this is a great foundation, because, you know, some foundations, they only work well if you use it with a certain product. This works well with everything. It has like I said, it's very long wearing, but it has also passed the stress and anxiety test, and I feel like that's the biggest thing. If you guys have never noticed, your foundation does not last long when you're very anxious and stressed out. Like, just try it. Like, compare it to a day where you're happy, you're doing stuff that you enjoy, and you're having fun, compared to a day where you're super stressed out or you have a lot of anxiety because, let's say, you're at work or school or whatever makes you stressed out or anxious. It breaks down literally 3 to 4 times quicker. Always. Like, every time where I could be wearing my makeup for like 10 hours, hanging out with my dog, my family, napping even, and it'll be fine all day. I'll come home and it looks completely fine. But 2 hours into like school, it's already looking like oily. It starts like, you know, the pools of oil around your nostrils. Oh, that's the worst. It does that. So anxiety and stress play a huge role. I worn it to school and it's totally fine. And I'm very stressed out and anxious at school, let me tell you, okay? So it's passed those tests. And on top of that, I don't think I mentioned this. This is a very lightweight consistency. It's very lightweight. It's very fluid. It's not thick and creamy. If you guys have ever tried the Pat McGrath foundation, that one's like the viscosity of that one is like water. This one is not that liquidy, but it's very thin, it's not thick, and it's very nice and light. So I really like that. It's very breathable. Okay. And usually with those types of consistencies, if you guys haven't noticed, like if you ever look at like a lot of YouTubers and stuff, whenever it's a really thin consistency, it's better applied with a brush. It just looks nicer, has a better finish and stuff like that. And when you try and use a sponge, sometimes, depending on the formula, it doesn't look that nice. It looks better with a brush. But the thing with me is I'm really bad with brushes. I just don't have like the flicker of the wrist, the finesse for it, the little, you know, like the right pressure points and the when to stipple, I think it's stipple, right? When to stipple, when to drag, when to, you know, like I don't have that, okay? So I'm just not great with brushes. So I hate that sometimes I see these great complexion products and I really, really want to use them, and I do, but they just don't look as nice because it just doesn't look as nice applied with a sponge. I like that this applies amazing with a sponge, and when this first came out, of course, it was all over YouTube, it was all over Instagram and stuff like that. Everyone was using it with a brush and they looked amazing, and I did try using it with a brush, but it's not the product, it's me, okay? I can't use brushes. I'm just, like I said, I don't have the finesse for it. But what the point I'm trying to get is whether you are a sponge user or a brush user, it looks amazing with both. So that's the point I'm trying to make. So with that said, those are all the great things about this foundation. Also, it lasts 12 months and it's made in France. So that's great to know. I really like knowing the shelf life of my complexion products because they take longer to use and some last for only 6 months. So when they're 12 months, then, you know, that's a pro for me. So with that said, stay safe, you guys. I love you and